Oh, well, I guess there was no opening here. I'm seeing some notifications that everybody's having all of these issues. X is having an issue. So give me 1 second. What I would normally do while the opening video is playing. Now you can hear me. Um, to repost this, guys, give me just a sec. This is so ghetto. Ghetto. The ghetto. Um, okay. Um, I guess I'm live. I don't know what's going on. Um, but it looks like I'm live on Facebook, YouTube, X, Rumble. If someone is here from any of those places before I get started, can you just drop a comment in the chat so that I know that you're here, so that I know this is working correctly? If not, I am going to, okay. Hey, so YouTube is here. I guess you all are the most important anyway, as I'm always telling people that if you're watching on X, to consider watching on YouTube or Rumble. So I just want to take this moment to do what I'm not seeing people do online anymore, and that is pause. Pause. And I do not count it a coincidence that I had to pause in the beginning of this broadcast, that I had to take a moment to stop before I proceeded in what I wanted to talk about today. Welcome to Shaking My Head. I am your host, Shamika Michelle. Happy Tuesday. I apologize for not being here on yesterday. I told you all Thursday that I did have a doctor's appointment on Monday and I wasn't sure of the time, but it did run into shaking my head. So I wasn't here yesterday. But I think it might have been Thursday. Let me see. It was one day last week. Candace Owens did a show called Okay, dot, dot, dot. These text messages are crazy. And I saw people, and it's over the weekend and it's still going on, going back and forth, arguing whether or not it was okay. I myself commented to someone who was commenting under someone taking up for Erika Kirk, saying this was no big deal. There was a person who commented and said the text messages were low-key weird. I responded to that person and I said, high key. That's all I said. And then the original poster came and told me that there was nothing weird about the text messages, and that the post that we're claiming, we don't know if the 15-year-old actually posted it or whatever. And I just want to say pause. Again, pause. Because my issue is, I'm not saying whether or not I feel like Erika is a groomer or any of that. I am coming to you all as a mother of 3 daughters, all of which who are grown now, but it means at one point they were 15. It means at one point they were underage. At one point they were minors in my house. So I'm coming today not saying who is a groomer or not. I want to be specific in those words. I'm not saying Erika Kirk was a groomer. But I do want to say that as adults, because during this interaction, Erika was 25. At 25, I was preparing to be married, had a child. By the time I was 30, I had all my children. I was married. I was very settled. She wasn't far from that age. I also was a mentor at the time. I had young girls that I mentored who were a part of my baton group, who were a part of my dance group, who maybe went to church with me. There was a young lady whose mother killed her father, who was named after me. So at the time, I was only in my early 20s. I stepped up to kind of be that mother, big sister type person to her because we shared the same name. So I feel like I've had experience on both sides. Number one, being a mentor, and then also having 3 daughters. So it's a bit frustrating for me to see people, especially those with no children, trying to tell someone like myself who has children, who has daughters, that there was absolutely nothing wrong or nothing weird about the text messages. That before I get ahead of myself, I am going to play a snippet of Candace Owens' show from last week where she was talking about Erika Kirk. I want to specifically concentrate on the text messages because when people say, oh, we don't know if Erika actually sent those memes, or we don't know what was going on for this young girl, I think her name was Jillian, to say this, we don't know if that's accurate or that's true or whatever. The text messages, I do not understand how people are making excuses for. So I'm going to play this, and we're going to focus on the text messages because y'all not going to gaslight me as a parent of 3 girls, as someone who has been a mentor, to say that there's absolutely nothing wrong. What I want us to focus on is there was a 15-year-old and a 25-year-old having this conversation. And I want to focus on the fact that just because we've made certain things, we've normalized certain things, doesn't mean it's actually normal. I want us to focus on the fact that just because someone may be 15 and they know how to communicate, or they seem growner than what they are still 15. But I'm going to show you these text messages because maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. And then I want to get into why, as adults, we don't realize that there is a difference between adults and children, and why so many people are saying, oh, there's nothing to see here. There was nothing wrong. We can recognize something as inappropriate without demonizing someone's character. So I get if you're saying, oh, Erika Kirk is not a groomer. I get that if you're saying Erika Kirk is a grieving widow, she's a mother, Charlie loved her. I understand all of that. But I think you can acknowledge that something is inappropriate without demonizing her character. And what frustrated me was someone who doesn't have children saying, oh, trying to destroy her character is the work of Satan. It's not the work of Satan to point out something that you disagree with. People do it all the time, every day. And I don't understand why so many people are taking the stance that you can't now point out something that you consider is wrong without saying, oh, you have to be a Candyite or a Candyite, or you just hate Zion, whatever. As a mother of 3 girls and someone who was constantly around young girls, I want to come from that angle, because there's certain conversations that just should not take place between an adult and a child. Bottom line, let me play these for you.
I'm going to allow you to listen to her explain what then transpires. And I would also, again, like to reinforce the fact that this girl, Jillian, is 15 years old and Erika is 25. It's worth mentioning that at this point in her biography, Erika is also working with sex trafficking charities. This is that year where she says that she got involved with a sex trafficking charity over in China. I'll have more for you on that next week, but take it away, Nicey.
On February 13th, 2014, Jillian replied to one of Erika's tweets by saying, at Erika Francevy, gorgeous as always. A few hours later, she then tweeted, why did at Erika Francevy just send me this? Laughing emojis. And there is a photo which says, this Valentine's Day, I am going to touch your butt. Jillian posted this tweet on March 6, 2014. So Erika says, let me call you. Hold on, sweetheart. Give me a sex. Wow. And then Jillian says, okay, and puts laughing emojis. Erika then says, sex too, but not from you, lol. Holy laughing emoji. You always make me laugh. I don't bat for the other team just yet. On March 3rd.
Let me pause right there. Let's pause. Let's say, me from a mom standpoint, someone was talking to my daughter, texting her, female, same sex, and made the mistake, because I understand it happens all the time, made the mistake of typing sex when they meant sec, SEC. Let me go back so it's still up here. Let me go back, because I want this on the screen. To say sex to, but not from you, why is that appropriate? I need someone to explain to me how that is appropriate, because I get that you came back and said sec, but the whole sex to, but not from you, to a 15-year-old who is not your peer, and then LOL, that's inappropriate. And as a parent, call me stiff, call me stuffy, call me a prude, call me whatever you would like to call me. But you wouldn't have called me and I was okay with this type of interaction with my child. I have an issue with coming back to say sex too, but not from you. It's inappropriate. If you're having sex unmarried, that's fine. It doesn't need to be a conversation though with the 15-year-old. You could have left it as corrected with sex and moved on. But the whole sex too, but not from you, is inappropriate. Do I know whether or not she was trying to groom the young lady? I don't know, but that's inappropriate. And you're not going to tell me it's the work of the devil because I have the guts to say it's inappropriate. Then going on down to say, I don't bat for the other team just yet, inappropriate. We are talking about a 15-year-old, a ninth grader, and a grown woman. At 25, you are a grown woman. Period. We have people married with children at 25. I was headed that way, planning my wedding at 25. I'm not going to joke with a 15-year-old about what team I bat for. That should not be a topic of conversation. And it's just as I've told you all in the past, I have an issue with them having these types of conversations with young people in school, because that's not what you're there for. You're there to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. Focus on that. Who somebody is interested in the bedroom is inappropriate at certain ages. Although Erika was not her teacher, this is also not her peer. This is not her friend. And I don't care how grown this young lady came across. She was not grown. Her brain is not mature. So the mature person in the conversation should have been the adult here. Let me go on. Let's continue.
Give me a sex. Wow. And then Jillian says, okay, and puts laughing emojis. Erika then says, Sex too, but not from you. LOL. Holy laughing emoji. You always make me laugh. I don't bat for the other team just yet. On March 13th, 2014, Jillian shared another screenshot of her text messages with Erika. Erika says, I forgot to tell you, hydrate tonight. No alcohol, and don't eat a lot of salty foods. You don't want to look bloated. Jillian then responds, thank you. Erika says, no alcohol. Really, Erika? Age recognition, you twat waffle. Apparently, I haven't had my coffee yet. What the hell?
Age recognition. Age recognition. So you could recognize that she wasn't old enough to drink, but you couldn't recognize that you shouldn't be having a conversation about sex with her. So the twat waffle kicked in about the alcohol, but not about what team you were batting for. Inappropriate. Let me go on forward to the next text message.
Forgotten, and she attached a screenshot of her conversation with Erika. So Jillian says, thank you. Erika says, you have the most stunning features. Jillian says, best compliment ever. Erika says, your eyes, your lips, your skin, you're absolutely beautiful. Jillian.
Too much. Too much. Too much. And I want us as adults to just go back and remember when there were times as a young person where someone older did something to you that made you uncomfortable, and no matter how much you laughed it off, it wasn't okay. It just wasn't okay. I can remember being a young girl. Oh God, I hate to even give this example, but I remember being a young girl, teenager in church, and there was this one particular older woman in the church. She would always come up and give me a hug, and I loved her. I loved her. But every single time she gave me a hug, she would rub my butt. It made me uncomfortable, but she was so kind. She was so nice. She was so loving. I might get a whole pack of gum from her. I was okay with that uncomfortable moment because she was so kind. She was so nice. And surely this older woman didn't mean anything by always rubbing my butt. I can remember having a pastor, and I've had several over the years, who would always kiss me on my neck. Never said anything inappropriate outside of kissing me on my neck, never did anything. So some people may just cast that aside like, oh, there's nothing wrong with them kissing you on your neck. He didn't mean anything by it. But as a child, as a young person, there was an age gap. There was public interaction that to me was inappropriate. There was a power imbalance in both of those situations. In the one situation, I had a pastor who was in charge, who was revered, who was respected and looked up to. The other situation was an older lady in the church who everybody respected and loved. There was a power imbalance. And I'm not saying that something criminal occurred. But just because nothing criminal happened doesn't mean the interaction was appropriate. And as adults, we have to be mindful that we are the adult in the room. Flipping over to the other side, I remember that there was this young boy. Now I'm an adult. I'm a young adult. I'm in my 20s. There was this young boy in the church. His mother would say, oh, he loves you. He just talks about how you're his girlfriend every time we get home. And he's crazy about you. And so oftentimes I would speak, hey, to him because I knew that would like make him blush. And he would hide behind his mom's leg because here I come, this woman who he had a so-called crush on. I would just smile at him and be nice, and he would just melt. Because no one would say to me, somebody has to be the adult in the room. And the parent apparently wasn't the adult. But I can tell you, as a mom growing up and then having 3 children, I would feel some type of way if any of my young daughters as little kids would have said, oh, I love this man. He's so handsome to me. And I would have went and told this grown man, oh, she finds you so handsome. And this grown man was just hopping out every time. Again, just because we have normalized things doesn't make it normal. And just because certain things are not criminal doesn't mean that it's not inappropriate. And at some point, we have to stop making excuses and just be honest. I'm being honest today on multiple sides. As the child, as the adult, as the mentor, as someone whose children had mentors. I'm coming to you from multiple sides. And we have to stop making excuses, and somebody has to be the adult in the room. We can all remember, or most of us can remember, when adults around us spoke too freely. Sometimes those adults spoke too freely to us. Some of us should admit when we spoke too freely as adults, not recognizing or realizing that a child was present or that we're talking to children. There were times when an adult joked with us publicly, and it was too much. As a child, we should never be treating children as just one of the adults. They aren't adults. Oh, they just one of the adults. What I can respect about many older generations is when they would say, stay in a child's place, or they wouldn't have certain conversations in front of you. They would say, go to your room. And guess what you better do? Go to your room. Now, people are just so willy-nilly that they aren't drawing the lines. They're not acting as if boundaries matter, but they do. Boundaries matter a great deal. And it's sometimes very difficult for children to recognize discomfort in the moment. When I was a child, I knew something didn't feel right about this lady always rubbing my bottom when I went to hug her or to get the pack of chewing gum. But as an adult, I can now talk about it and say, every time I went to get a pack of chewing gum or to give her a hug on Sunday, she rubbed my butt. And it made me feel awkward. It made me feel uncomfortable when my pastor would kiss me on my neck. We have to understand sometimes it's hard for children to recognize that discomfort. So somebody has to be an adult in the room. And as I'm watching everybody make all of these excuses for this behavior, I'm saying pause. You can acknowledge something as inappropriate, and it's not the work of the devil. These text messages were inappropriate, even if they were so-called in meaning to be innocent. If the intentions were innocent. I always say direction, not intention, determines destination. So even if they were intended to be innocent, what direction were they going in? That determines destination. So everybody trying to say, oh, this little girl was infatuated with her. Well, how did she play into that? How did she play into that? And how can we use that to say, hey, adults, that's not okay? Let's take this as a learning moment. It's inappropriate. And we need to talk about how we think children are mature. Oh, they so grown. They're before their time. They are old woman in a little girl's body. That's how we try and reconcile us doing things around them that are too mature for them. They've been here before. We like to say things like that. Oh, they were here before. You can, oh, that's no big deal. We think because maybe they carry themselves a certain way that they are mature in the mind, and that's not usually the case. Children are resilient and they adapt. Sometimes they adapt into adult environments very quickly. It doesn't mean they're adults. Sometimes this adaptability is often mistaken for consent. Just because they're adapting to your environment doesn't mean they consent or that they're comfortable there. They've just adapted. This is what we say to parents when they are about to divorce. Your children will adapt. They're resilient. They'll be fine. I know because I've been there. I've been in those mediation sessions where they tell you children are resilient. They will be fine. But it doesn't mean that because they adapt, they consent or that they are comfortable. It is up for the adults to set the standard, set the ceiling, not test the floor. And many times we are not setting the ceiling as adults. For everybody that are online saying there was nothing weird about this exchange, I would say check yourself. You need your own personal come to Jesus moment. And this is not me saying that I'm looking through a victim lens. I get the whole to the pure at heart, all things are pure. What I'm saying though is let's be honest. There was no reason after you corrected sex and said sex, there was absolutely zero reason for her to come back and say sex too, but not with you, LOL, inappropriate. There was absolutely no reason to say, I don't bat for the other team yet. Absolutely no reason. I don't know how y'all are justifying that. There was zero reason for that. You like her? That's fine. You feel like she's a grieving widow? That's fine. You feel like she's having to walk her children through them losing their father? That's fine. But you can also acknowledge there was zero reason to say those sentences and that they were inappropriate. And if someone was saying it to your child, if you were a good, responsible parent, it would give you pause. If you don't have children, I don't expect you to understand, not even a little bit. If you do, good for you. But as someone who has children, I understand that looking mature doesn't necessarily mean emotional readiness for certain things. Children mature real fast nowadays. I told you all last week there was a second grader. We had 2 second graders when I worked for the school who had their periods. So maturity doesn't always mean emotional readiness, because I watched those little girls not even know what to do, not even understand what was happening. So their bodies were saying, I'm mature, but it didn't mean they had the emotional readiness to handle what was going on with those bodies. And a lot of times we look at kids and we see someone who has just as much boobs as we do, And we think that makes them our equal. It doesn't. I could go to the school down the street from me right now and find dozens, I'm sure, of young girls that got more up here than I do. It doesn't mean because their body looks mature that the mind is ready for certain things. Somebody has to be the adult in the room. And just because somebody seemed fine, she seemed fine. Look at how she was laughing and joking. It doesn't make it valid. It doesn't make it okay. I saw someone actually have a video and say, "Oh, this is how this young girl rolled. She did this and she talked like this to everyone." She was always posting things, and it seems as if her mother or her parents weren't around. They just let her do whatever. That's not valid. It's not a valid excuse, guys. And for those who are saying Erika Kirk, looks like a groomer for this, you coming trying to pull an excuse like a magician would pull a rabbit out his ass, you are looking like a groomer as well, a groomer apologist. It's not a valid standard. Oh, they sing fine. It's not a valid excuse. Children learn from us. So they learn what we normalize. But it doesn't mean they feel safe. Just because they don't say anything doesn't mean they feel safe. And let me again say, this isn't just about Erika Kirk. This is any type of mentor, a coach, a teacher, entertainers. We're sitting here right now in the middle of the whole Jeffrey Epstein complaining that no one has been taken down. And at the same time, relaxing standards simply because we like somebody, simply because they're pretty. I saw someone say, "Oh, they're having this issue with Erika Kirk because she's blonde with beautiful eyes and fair skin." Nobody, listen. No, it was inappropriate. And I'm not going to turn a blind eye to it because someone is fair skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes or gray eyes, whatever color they are. We have to have standards. Family, friends have to have standards. And even as adults, we need to do some self checks, even when our intentions are pure. I don't know her intentions. After this week-long investigation and Candace comes back next week, we may see something different. I may be up here next week saying, no, the intentions were shady. But today I don't know her intentions. I do know the actions, however, were inappropriate. And we have to learn how to set boundaries so that our children understand what boundaries are. Because again, we teach them what's normal. If an adult sends you, and never mind, I said I was going to stick to the actual text messages. I'm going to stick to the text messages. But as adults, we teach kids what's normal. And it makes it very hard for them to go out into the world when people they trust have no problem making them feel uncomfortable. Well, maybe, it's fine. It's fine for this person to grab me by my waist. I'm a grown adult at this point. Maybe it's fine for them to grab me by my waist. I noticed that older people, they're a bit touchy feely and sometimes they don't know boundaries. And because, you know, you start making excuses for them because nobody said, pause, hold up, wait a minute. It's not supposed to be that way. So I'm not on a witch hunt. This isn't a witch hunt for me. This is a wake up call. If you are a grown adult and you are mentoring young children, this is a wake up call. Whether you are a male or a female, you're a man dealing with some young boys. There are certain conversations you shouldn't be having. I don't care how beefy this little boy looks. Somebody has to be the adult in the room. And more often than not, we don't care when it's a little boy. We think it's okay for grown women to have sex with little boys. We think it's okay to set it up for a little boy to have sex with a grown woman. We don't care. You see teachers having inappropriate relations, female teachers having inappropriate relationships with their male students. They get a slap on the wrist most times. We don't even care. It's cool. It's cool. It's a coming of age. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But when it's the other way around, then typically we realize something is wrong. If this had been a 25-year-old man talking to a 15-year-old girl saying sex too, but not with you, LOL, somebody would have had a problem with it. They would have then, at the very least, said, it's low key weird. And you wouldn't have tried to slide under my comments when I said it was high key weird. You wouldn't have tried to slide up under me justifying the actions. If this was Erika Kirk, a 25-year-old man talking to a 15-year-old young girl, people would see the weirdness of it. I guarantee. Nobody would be saying there was zero wrong with those text messages. They were inappropriate. Boundaries matter. Adults, children, accountability. Boundaries matter. And y'all are lying if you act as if there's nothing to see here. If nothing else, this is a learning lesson. Tell me you would want your coach, your child's coach, having this same type of conversation. A grown coach, you got a young daughter? My daughter at 15 was playing basketball. So if a male coach had told her, hold up a sex, and then came back and said sex too, but not with you, I'd have went down there and ripped his tongue out and then broke his thumbs. I'm not understanding why we are acting like there's no big deal here. Again, you can like someone, you can think highly of them, give them the benefit of the doubt. and say, I just don't think she was grooming. And at the same time say, but you know what? Those were inappropriate. To say I don't play for the other team, inappropriate. Why? What's the point? What was the purpose of that? And I feel like I'm being real fair because, truth be told, as a parent of 3 girls, I would have thought you was trying to groom my children, male or female. I would have found it inappropriate. Again, call me whatever you want to call me, a square, a prude, overreacting. I would have thought you were trying to groom my children because there was no reason for those messages at all. I give you uh a little leeway with the whole don't be drinking. You don't want to be puffy the next day. But then you were able to recognize there was an age difference there. It was all uncomfortable to me. It was all uncomfortable. And we have become just too relaxed. We need to go back to go to your room. Children stay in a child's place. This conversation doesn't concern you. Where we just wouldn't say certain things when children were present. And we certainly wouldn't be going back and forth having that type of communication with the child. Thank you, head shakers, for being here today. JT says, I was about to say it sounds like grooming to me. Young people seem to not know what's appropriate or not anymore. Absolutely. Hey Thomas, hey Cougar Diva. Hey Bod hi. Bodie body. Somebody's gonna tell me. Cougar, call me after this to tell me, the correct pronunciation. Hey Thomas. Sandra Madison says, super sketchy that Erika had photos taken of the girl without her mom's knowledge. I was going to get into that, but the reason why I said, Sandra, that I was just sticking to the text messages, because so many people have said that's not true. That didn't happen. And if it did happen, you're absolutely right. Send my child to a photo shoot without me present, I'm going to have a problem with it. My children can tell you. I had 2 that did some sort of modeling. My oldest, the most, she didn't go anywhere without me. You're not taking pictures of my child without me being present. Because you're not going to say to my child, pull it just a little bit off the shoulder, and I'm not there to say, pause. So I agree with you, Sandra. If that happened, indeed, inappropriate. Bodie Body says Erika Kirk is suspect all around. DDC, MNS, people today lost all sense of right and wrong. Parents actually fight to keep drag queens reading to their kids, which is so crazy to me. You're absolutely right. They do. It's crazy. how do you say, okay, Thomas says that woman sounded pervy, to be honest, Shamika. Rubbing the butt crosses boundaries. Yeah. As an adult, I can say that, like, yeah, that wasn't right. But as a child, it's like, who was I gonna tell? That's what I thought. I would be looked at as I'm crazy. It's just a little butt rub, you know. And listen, I had a very good present mom. She may go back and watch this playback after work and say, "Who was rubbing your butt? Why didn't you say something?" But this is why I'm saying it's very important that as adults we stop trying to normalize stuff and make stuff okay. Because then it muddies the waters with children. Thomas said you can tell when people are being nice and when people are being creepy, for sure. 8.58 says it's extra problematic without suspicion because of Erica's Romanian orphanage history in an orphanage that had a bunch of kids going missing. Yeah. Yeah. Leonka, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. If I'm not, my apologies. Calling someone a groomer without clear, substantive evidence, especially when there are no arrests, formal charges, or verified documents, is disingenuous and harmful to their reputation. Again, and you posted that during prior to me saying you can say they're not a groomer. I don't have an issue with that. I have an issue with people saying that there was nothing inappropriate. And just because something isn't criminal doesn't mean that it's okay or that it's not inappropriate. Just because no arrests were made, no formal charges, doesn't mean that it's not inappropriate. So I think we should be able to say just, that was wrong. Um Bless 7773 says Leonka, she just said even if it wasn't criminal, it was inappropriate. Listen first before responding. Oh, I have to agree. Stimulated students. Children mature because parents don't shelter them anymore. Many single mothers think it's virtuous to expose their kids to the world. Women have brought their children to my place, had to send them away. Um, He says, when I was 22, I was working with youth, damn near being a youth myself. I never fraternized with the kids. The teens I coached, I told them, don't call me after 8:30 and never give my number to anybody. And I think that's the way you're supposed to be, for sure. Hi, Paul. Thank you for being here. 010101B. Thank you as well, even though I don't know what's going on in there. Hi, Sharisa. Hope your grandson starts feeling better. Poor thing. You made it though. Sharisa says the little girl saw money and free basketball games. She was definitely being groomed. And she's referring to the Candace's show because initially it talks about Erika was dating a basketball player at the time. So forth and so on. Again, I just really want to reiterate that adults should talk to adults a certain way, and you should talk to children totally different. We have to set some boundaries. Again, not a witch hunt for me, but it's a wake up call. And I want people to stop lying, stop pretending, and start being honest. If you see nothing wrong with someone interacting with your young child this way, you don't have very good boundaries, and you're not teaching your children very good boundaries. When you can flip the sex and then say, oh my God, might be a little weird. To me, it's just weird, period. I even asked my children before bringing any names, because I didn't want people to lean a certain way because they like one person better than the other. I just flat out asked them, how would you feel if an adult woman was talking to you this way? One of my children outright said, I would feel weird for an adult woman to be I would have felt weird for an adult woman to have been texting me, period. Like, period. What's the point? Y'all aren't friends. You're not peers. You're not in the same age group. It's just inappropriate, even if the actions were okay. And for me, if we wouldn't want it done to our child, I'm not going to excuse it when it's done to somebody else's child. Whether the mother was around, a good mama, or drunk on the couch. If I wouldn't want it done to my child, I'm not going to excuse it being done to somebody else's child. This is me as a parent and how I carried myself with the young girls who were in my life. They're all grown now, but there was a time they were underage. Somebody has to be the adult in the room. I'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time, shaking my head about something else. Because this is Shaking My Head with Shamika Michelle. And I was definitely shaking my head about those text messages, and then shaking my head about the people justifying it and excusing it simply because you like the person. And then saying silly stuff like, oh, that's the work of Satan if you think it's wrong. Shut up. Shut your lying mouth, because at this moment, you and Satan is a lie and the truth ain't in you. Peace. I love you.